You may think that being an ancient Maya temple attendant was a hard life, but what about living in a jungle city? Not so easy either. The classic Maya civilization covered a huge chunk of Central America, from northern Guatemala through Belize, across the Yucatan Peninsula, and into parts of Honduras. And they did it for centuries. Cities rose and fell within those borders, each one unique yet interconnected. But let us pretend you read a time-traveling archaeologist who crash-landed in the classic Maya city of El Pilar during the height of its power around the year 900 AD. Where would you stay? The answer is here. Welcome to my home. This is where I live. This is where I sleep. This is where I get eaten alive. See, I am a temple attendant who lives in the servant quarters, or at least I will be soon. Let me show you around. Here we are. The first thing you notice is that this neighborhood doesn't look like much. In fact, it's downright unassuming. Just a cluster of low stone buildings huddled in the shadow of the great temples of the North Acropolis. It's nothing compared to the grand palaces of the elite. Those structures, carved entirely from limestone with steep pyramid-shaped roofs, and is nothing compared to the imposing architecture of the religious centers themselves. Its towering stepped pyramids capped with crumbling battlements and adorned with the royal coat of arms. Nope, this neighborhood looks pretty ordinary. But let me tell you a secret. This unassuming collection of humble homes was actually one of the largest settlements in all of El Pilar, housing more than 3,000 people at the height of the city's power. Okay, now, let me take you on a tour. See these walkways? They're paved with lime and rock. There are trash bins every few feet. And here's a ball court, albeit a miniature one. And this structure over here, well, that's just a nice place to hang out and chat with your friends. That's right, even the servants needed some downtime. This whole neighborhood was actually designed to be a comfortable place to live. There were even public baths and fresh running water from the nearby Chakin-Putinhal Canal, aka the Great North Road. So this was a very desirable place to call home. Except, of course, it was situated right next to the Great Pyramid, which meant that you had a front row seat to sacrifice. Now, if you were someone important, maybe you could get a palace instead. Okay, these bad boys come with views of the entire city, a private courtyard, and enough space to store your personal belongings. See, it's hard to imagine anything better than this, except maybe if you were a ruler. Then you would get a whole building to yourself, a veritable mansion with 2 stories, a central patio, multiple rooms, a staircase, and your own bathroom. I bet the plumbing in that one was amazing. But what if you didn't have a choice? What if you were born into servitude and doomed to live in the servant quarters forever? Well then, you would wake up before the sun rises. The stone walls of the servant quarters are cool and quiet, save for the muffled sounds of distant birds beginning their morning songs. The sky is still dark. You pull your cotton tunic tighter as you step out into the courtyard. The air smells faintly of burned copal, the sacred incense already wafting from the temple complex above. As a temple attendant in the city of Yaxmutil, your role is not glamorous. You are not a priest. You are not a scribe. You do not read the sacred glyphs. You clean, you prepare offerings, you carry water from the Sanat, and you serve silently. Your first duty is to sweep the limestone floors of the outer temple plaza. The broom is made of bundled palm fronds. The sweeping is slow, rhythmic. Back and forth, back and forth. The dust lifts and settles. Time passes. Once the sun begins to rise, you carry water up the stone stairs of the main pyramid. The jug is heavy. The climb is long. You do not speak. You do not stop. At the top, a senior acolyte nods and takes the jug. You turn, descend, and begin again. This is your morning. Every morning, it's the same stairs, the same jug, the same silence. The only break is at midday. when you are allowed to sit in the shade of a stone wall and eat tamales filled with beans and squash. Sometimes there is honey. Often there is not. After that, it's back to work. Maybe you weed the sacred garden, carefully uprooting any plant that's out of place. Maybe you rearrange the sacrificial bundles and flowers. Oh, maybe you help prepare the sacred cacao for the morning ritual. All the while, the priests chant and burn incense and lay out the tools of sacrifice: knives, skulls, even human hearts. Finally, the evening brings a blessed respite. You head home, exhausted and hungry, to share a simple meal of corn, beans, and squash with your family. Your children are asleep by the light of the hearth, dreaming of being scribes or merchants or kings. You tuck them in and tell them stories of the underworld, of Shababa, home of the lords of death. The flickering flames dance on the walls, and you wonder if there's more to this world. There's another place where you might be free. But tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow, you will wake up before the sun rises. Being a servant wasn't easy, but hey, at least you weren't a sacrificial victim. Here, death awaited everyone. If you were a child, you might be sacrificed to ensure the prosperity of the city. If you were a king, you might be killed in a battle to bolster the power of the gods. If you were a captive, you might be offered up to appease the deities. And if you were a woman, you might be taken to the sacred well to drown in the name of fertility. Seriously, death was everywhere. For instance, you could be strolling through the marketplace and slip on a discarded animal skull. Or maybe you were just unlucky enough to be buried under a collapsed tomb. And let's say that you somehow managed to avoid all those pitfalls. Well, there was always the annual mass sacrifice. Every 260 days, everyone in the city participated in the Day of the Dead celebration, where they cut themselves to offer their blood to the gods. Okay, you've heard that right. Everyone, whether you're a noble lord or a lowly servant. If you didn't bleed for the gods, they might just decide to make you bleed anyway. Still, despite all that, this was also a golden age. It was an era of intellectual achievement, artistic brilliance, and monumental construction. It was also an era of exploration. Traders traveled thousands of miles along a network of roads connecting far-flung cities and natural wonders alike. Imagine the sights that they must have seen: jungles teeming with wildlife, mountains cloaked in mist, rivers reflecting the sky. Those who traveled the roads brought back exotic animals, plants, and ideas, creating a melting pot of cultures. It was truly a time of adventure. If you were lucky, you could be part of it. After all, you lived in a city whose citizens left their mark on everything they touched. They built causeways and dams, sculpted stelae, and painted murals. But mostly, they planted trees. Yes, the Maya were known for their agroforestry practices, planting and tending to a wide variety of useful plants, from maize and beans to vanilla and chocolate. All of those foods and more fueled the engine of the Maya civilization. So let me ask you this: would you rather be a servant in the city of El Pilar or a time-traveling archaeologist? In ancient Maya society, there was no distinction between religious and political power. The ruler was also the high priest. There were many levels of priests, but we are going to focus on the highest level, the attendant and the high priest. Attendants were common men who entered the priesthood through choice or by being selected. They wore simple white cotton robes and lived in a dormitory-style building. The high priests, on the other hand, were not like the attendants. They wore cloaks of jaguar skin. Their faces were painted in layers of black and red. Their words were memorized from the sacred codices, books written on bark paper and kept hidden from all but the elite. The high priest did not sweep. He did not carry water. His role was different. He read the stars, interpreted omens, and communicated with the gods. His day began not with work, but with meditation. He sat in the shadows of the eastern chamber, inhaling the sacred smoke of burning resin. His body was still. His breathing was slow. When it was time, He stepped before the people and spoke not to them, but to the heavens. His voice was low. His words were old. He chanted the names of gods, Itzamni, Kukulkan, Ixchel. The people listened in silence. The high priest's duties were many. One of his most important tasks was bloodletting. Sometimes the blood came from his own body, sometimes from the bodies of willing donors. But sometimes it was drawn from the heart of a sacrificial victim. The blood was collected on bark paper and burned as an offering to the gods. Bloodletting was not only a way to appease the gods, but it was also seen as a way to keep the cosmos in balance. The high priest had to be very careful, however, not to spill any blood on the ground, for that would defile the temple. Another one of the high priest's responsibilities was to keep track of the calendar. The Maya had 3 calendars, the long count, the Tizocan, and the Hab. Each one had its own system of keeping time. The long count was a sacred calendar that was used to count the days in terms of the periods of creation. The Tzolk'in was a sacred divinatory calendar used for ritual and divination purposes. The Hab was the agricultural or civil calendar. All of these calendars had to be kept track of at the same time, and it was the high priest's job to make sure that they were all in sync. If the calendars were out of sync, it could throw the whole cosmos into chaos. The high priest also had to be an expert in astronomy. He had to know when Venus would rise and set, when eclipses would occur, and when the solstices and equinoxes would take place. All of these astronomical events were seen as omens from the gods, and it was up to the high priest to interpret them correctly. The high priest misinterpreting an omen could bring down the wrath of the gods upon the city. In addition to all of this, the high priest also had to be a scholar. He had to memorize huge amounts of information about the gods, their history, and their rituals. This information was kept in the sacred books called the Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh was not just a book, it was a way of life. It contained everything the Maya knew about the world and their place in it. The high priest had to memorize the entire thing. If he didn't, it would be like forgetting the gods themselves. The high priest was a busy man. He had to perform rituals, consult with the king, teach the new priests, and keep track of the calendar. He had to be an expert in astronomy and a scholar of the sacred books. But despite all of this, he still had to be humble. He was just a servant of the gods, and he knew it. He was not allowed to get drunk or behave in a disorderly manner. He had to be pious at all times. Being a high priest was a great honor, but it was also a great responsibility. The high priest was responsible for the well-being of the entire city. If anything went wrong, it was his fault. If the crops failed, if a war was lost, if a child died, it was all his fault. The high priest had to deal with this kind of pressure all the time, and it was a lot to handle. Despite all the pressure, the high priests were revered by the Maya. They were seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people. They were the ones who could speak to the gods and interpret their will. The Maya believed that the high priests were chosen by the gods to lead them, and they followed them blindly. And there is a lot to learn about the high priest. He was a man of great power and responsibility. He was a servant of the gods and a leader of the people. He was the keeper of knowledge and the interpreter of the cosmos. He was the high priest. The first thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a teacher. He was responsible for teaching the Maya people about their religion and their culture. He taught them about the gods and their history, and he made sure that they followed the rules of their society. The Maya people respected their priests, and they listened to what he had to say. The second thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a healer. He was the one who took care of the sick and wounded. He used herbs and other natural remedies to treat their ailments. He also performed rituals to drive out evil spirits. The Maya people believed that the high priest had special powers, and they came to him for help when they were sick or injured. The third thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a counselor. He was the one who the king turned to for advice. He helped the king make decisions about war, trade, and religion. The king listened to the high priest's advice because he knew that he had the best interests of the kingdom at heart. The fourth thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a diplomat. He was the one who represented the kingdom in dealings with other cultures. He was skilled in the art of diplomacy, and he always represented the kingdom well. The other cultures respected the high priest, and they listened to what he had to say. The fifth thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a judge. He was the one who settled disputes between members of the kingdom. He was fair and impartial, and he always tried to reach a just decision. The people respected the high priest, and they knew that he would always do what was right. The sixth thing you should know about the high priest is that he was a performer. He was the one who led the religious festivals and ceremonies. He was a skilled performer, and he always put on a good show. The people loved the high priest, and they looked forward to the festivals and ceremonies that he led. As you can see, the high priest was a very busy man. He had a lot of responsibilities, but he was always up to the task, okay? He was a wise, intelligent, and compassionate man. He was the best that Maya had to offer. The Maya civilization is one of the most fascinating in human history. They were a highly developed society with a complex religion and culture. The Maya people were known for their skill in mathematics, astronomy, and architecture. They built some of the most impressive pyramids and temples in the ancient world. The Maya civilization lasted for centuries, and it is still going strong today. The Maya people are still alive and well in Central America, and they continue to practice their ancient religion and customs. The Acropolis stretches before me, hiding its secrets like a pregnant woman clutching her belly. Not all parts of the temple are visible to the public. Beneath the central pyramid are hidden chambers that few have ever seen. They are dark and quiet, filled with echoes and the scent of old incense. Only the priests and select workers ever enter. This is a world away from the hustle and bustle above ground, where tourists in their colorful clothing mill around, camera flashes going off every few seconds, their voices competing with the insistent chant of the vendors, selling sweet coconut candy and bracelets made of jaguar teeth. Here, cool air clings to damp walls adorned with faded murals depicting gods and battles, kings and captives. Time is measured in centuries, not minutes. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by the scuttling of a spider or the drip of water from a crack in the ceiling. The only light comes from cracks in the masonry, just enough to reveal hieroglyphs carved into lintels and door frames. They tell stories and pictures of creation, war, and sacrifice, of kings who walked between the worlds, and of jaguars. Lots of jaguars. Some panels show prisoners dragged before the altar, where the priests performed rituals that nobody dares speak of, not even here in the shadows. I once helped carry stone jars into the lower crypt. Each was the size of a small child, sealed tightly and painted with strange glyphs. I was not told what was inside. I was not allowed to look. I am just a humble servant of the temple. My duty is to sweep the floors and mend the crumbling stairs. That is all I am allowed to do. The servants whisper amongst themselves about the jars, but I pretend not to listen. I stare at the floor, watching the dust devils dance in the shafts of sunlight. I think of the day I will grow old and my bones will turn to dust, blown away by the wind and scattered across the jungle floor, maybe swallowed by the roots of the great ceiba tree that stands guard outside the temple. What would I tell the story of? The king whose head was made of jade, the merchants who brought tribute up the mountain, or the fire god who rained down fire and death on the city. All of these things have happened beneath this mountain, but I am not meant to know why. I am just a servant. In the late afternoon, while the priests are praying at the summit of the pyramid, I come to the barred window. Outside, the sky is the color of ripe figs, and the jungle whispers secrets in the trees. When the light fades, I hurry home, before the bats take to the sky. There are things I want to forget, things I do not want to remember. And yet, sometimes my dreams are filled with screaming and the smell of copal incense. I wake up gasping for breath. My wife asks if I am ill, but I only shake my head. She knows better than to ask questions. We eat our dinner in silence. She weaves, I carve. Neither of us speak. My hands are calloused and scarred from years of working with stone. A life among these cold, hard stones has taught me a lesson. It is better to ask forgiveness than permission. When I was young, there was a way down into one of the chambers from a hole in the roof. The older attendants say it was sealed long ago. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was not. Who would know? It doesn't matter anyway. Now, only the priests go below. They come out again, wiping sweat from their brows, carrying clay bowls full of offerings. What is in those bowls? Is it blood? I dare not ask. Once they left a bowl outside the door. I saw them through a crack in the wall. One priest held another by the arm, his voice rising in anger. The other priest fell to his knees before the bowl and started to chant. He did not see me. I stared at the ball. I wanted to see what was inside. I knew I should not, but I could not help myself. I lifted the lid. Steam rose and fell like a miniature tide, carrying with it the cloying smell of vanilla and something else. Something metallic and sharp, like the sting of a wasp sting. Inside the bowl, I saw the pulsing heart of a rabbit, still warm, still wet with blood. I slammed the lid shut and backed away. I heard the angry shout, but I didn't care. Ran to the market and bought a coconut and drank its sweet milk. I did not wash my hands. The heart beat on my skin. There is one chamber that none of the workers will enter anymore, not even the priests. They say it holds the remains of a god king. Perhaps it is true. Perhaps it is only a story designed to keep the workers away. Who would willingly enter such a place? Who would want to find out? But I used to go there. It is not so much a chamber as a tomb. A single block of solid granite rises from the floor and is covered in jewels and jade beads. In the center, set into a socket, is a mask made of pure gold. Its eyes are missing. The image stares sightlessly into the middle distance. On the back of the statue is a series of glyphs. It tells the tale of how this god king defeated his enemies and brought peace to the realm. Did he really do that? Or was it all smoke and mirrors? Below the carving, set into the stone like a picture in a book, is a tiny silver mirror. It shows two men kneeling before the king. They are both missing heads. I have seen many things in this temple, but these things stay in my mind. They say that when the moon is full, the god king stirs in his eternal slumber and climbs the steps of the pyramid to walk the earth. The older attendants warn us to be careful on nights like tonight. If you hear drums in the night, hide under your bed and cover your mouth. Do not make a sound. Do not move. Whatever you do, don't look outside. What you don't see can't hurt you. But I am just a humble servant. I do not believe in ghosts or kings. One of the chambers has no entrance now. It was sealed long ago. The entrance was blocked with a large slab of rock. Only the priests knew where it was and why it had been hidden. I stumbled upon it by accident when I was fetching water from the old cistern below the temple. I noticed a loose stone. It looked out of place, as if someone had dropped it. Curiosity got the better of me. I pushed at the stone, and it moved. The tunnel behind was pitch black, but I felt my way inside. It smelled of dust and decay. I found an inscription on the wall, barely visible in the gloom. It said, "Beware mortals, for here the gods dwell." I stood there for a moment, listening. I thought I could hear chanting, but it might have been the drip of water. I had no lantern, but I could see enough to make out shapes in the darkness. I continued on, led down a narrow passage until I came to a large chamber. First, I could see nothing, but slowly my eyes adjusted and I made out shapes in the darkness. Bones lay scattered on the floor and stacked against the walls. Some were small. Were they children? How could this be? I touched one and it crumbled to dust. The bones were dry and brittle like autumn leaves. Fear pricked at me. Was this the resting place of some great lord? I dared not disturb it, but as I turned to leave, I saw a skull lying on the ground. It was not like any human skull I'd ever seen. The eye sockets were too far apart. The jaw was too wide. This was the skull of a jaguar, so this was a place of sacrifice. I thought of the glyphs on the jars I carried, the ones I wasn't supposed to look in. I imagined the scene, the villagers held down on the altar, their screams echoing around the mountain, their blood painting the priest's hands and robes. I imagined the jaguar, its fangs bared in a silent snarl, its claws extended, ready to rip and tear. Then it pounced. No one speaks of this room. Sometimes at night, when the moon is high, I think I hear chanting from below. Kata. I continue sweeping. Kata. The stones remember everything, even if the people forget. You are not remembered in carvings. Your name is not recorded. You do not sit at the ball game. You do not enter the palace, but your hands built the stairs. Your sweat darkened the stones. You sleep on mats woven from reeds. When it rains, the walls leak. When it is dry, the dust covers everything. You are not allowed to marry without permission. You are not allowed to leave the city without an escort. You are expected to remain loyal. You do not see gold. You do not touch jade. The beads you wear are made of shell or bone. Your tattoos mark you as a temple servant, a design that others recognize instantly. You do not complain. It is not allowed. Some nights you dream of the forest, of walking far beyond the city, past the fields of maize and into the endless green, but you never leave. If you're enjoying this story, please remember to show your support. It helps bring more of these stories to more people. When I was 26 years old, I moved to the ancient Maya city of Uxmal in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico to work as an archaeologist. My job was to help uncover the secrets of the past by carefully brushing dirt off artifacts and recording where those artifacts were found. Teria, I uncovered beautiful Maya vessels, intricately carved stone heads, and my personal favorite, a burial with a stone sarcophagus decorated with colorful murals. One afternoon, as I was working near the North American Research Group camp, I felt something sharp poke through my shoe. As I pulled it out, I saw it was a small piece of chert, a type of rock used by the Maya to make tools and weapons. And as I looked around, I realized there were thousands of similar flakes of rock strewn across the surface of the excavation. At first glance, they appeared to be nothing important. They were just rocks, after all. But as I started picking them up one by one, I began to realize something incredible. Each flake had been struck intentionally. In fact, some of them had been struck many times. As the sun rose higher in the sky, I continued collecting the rocks, and I marked their location by placing them next to the corresponding grid marker. By lunchtime, I had collected over 200 pieces, and I hadn't found a single one out of place. Every single piece of chert was located right next to its grid marker. That meant every single piece of chert had been deliberately placed there. But why? I took my collection of chert to the supervisor on site and asked what we should do with them. She thanked me for finding them, but told me that since we didn't have any context, she didn't want to take them back to the lab. Context is so important in archaeology because it gives us information about how the objects we find relate to each other. For example, if we find a bowl on top of a burial, we can assume that the bowl was buried with a person. However, if we find the same bowl on top of a floor, we can assume that the bowl was used by the people who lived in the building until it was destroyed. Since we had no context for the chert, it would be too speculative to take them back to the lab. Instead, our team decided to save them on site by dumping them into a previously excavated area that would soon be reburied. The following day, my supervisor came over to check on my progress. When she saw that I was sitting among thousands of pieces of chert, she called over the photographer and instructed him to document the site. He placed the newly found chert next to the previously uncovered chert until there was a continuous pile. Then the photographer snapped a few pictures and we covered it all over with soil. For months, I wondered what would become of the chert. Would they ever be uncovered again? Someone else find them? Would they just sit there forever? Then one day, the team decided to return to the chert. We carefully uncovered the thousands of pieces and brought them back to the lab for cleaning and analysis. But before we could begin, the lab supervisor called over the director of the project and asked her opinion on what we should do. We need to send most of this material to the museum, the director said. But I think you should keep a representative sample here in the lab. She turned to me. Why don't you take a few samples and keep them in your office? I was surprised. I couldn't believe that I would be responsible for taking care of actual artifacts. I agreed, of course, and carefully selected several pieces to take home. That evening, I sat on my bed with a collection of chert in front of me. I turned them over in my hands, examining their edges. They were smooth from years of being handled. I traced the lines of each piece, memorizing the shape of each edge. I knew that I needed to record the exact weight, color, and dimensions of each piece in my field notebook, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. These were no longer just rocks. Each piece of chert was imbued with the memory of countless human hands that had held it before me. I closed my eyes and imagined all the people who had gathered, chipped and shaped these pieces of rock into tools. I envisioned how the flash of their stone hammer against the rock would ring through the air like a blacksmith ringing his anvil. I imagined how the sharp edge of their finished knife would slice through vegetation, gathering food for their community. I pictured the communities where these people lived, where these people thrived. The morning after I received my collection of chert, I went back to the excavation to see how the rest of my team was doing. Many of my colleagues were uncovering exciting things like Maya murals and beautifully carved stone lintels. But when they heard that I was in charge of the chert, many of them rolled their eyes and scoffed. Chert? Who cares? They said. It's just a bunch of rocks. I understood why they didn't get excited about the chert. It's hard to get excited about something that appears to be worthless. In modern society, we tend to value things that are rare, valuable, or beautiful. Jade, gold, and diamonds are considered precious because they are difficult to acquire. Meanwhile, pebbles, dirt, and broken glass are considered worthless because they are easy to acquire. But the Maya didn't share our values. To them, chert was a precious material. They used it to make tools for everyday life. They cherished it for its durability and reliability. Chert was a good material to use for knives because it stayed sharp longer than obsidian and was less likely to break than tempered obsidian. Chert was also easy to obtain in the Yucatan because the entire peninsula is full of chert outcrops. In fact, Uxmal was originally settled because of the abundance of chert in the area, and we tend to think of Maya society as warlike. Archaeological evidence suggests that warfare was only a part of Maya civilization. Instead, archaeological evidence indicates that Maya society was primarily organized around agriculture. Farming required tools to clear land, harvest crops, and process food. And the primary tool for all three of these tasks was the chert knife. During my excavations at Uxmal, I found a variety of chert tools, including knives, end scrapers, and drills. I also found a lot of debitage, which is the fancy name archaeologists use for rock that has been chipped away from the main artifact. And this is why I was so surprised to see the thousands of pieces of chert lying on the surface of the excavation. The chert wasn't just lying there randomly. It was arranged in rows that ran parallel to each other. This type of pattern doesn't appear randomly. It was created intentionally, okay? But why would someone go through the effort to collect thousands of pieces of chert and arrange them in such a precise manner? To understand why someone would put so much effort into arranging thousands of pieces of chert in rows, we have to look to the social structure of the Maya. The Maya were a stratified society. This means that they were divided into classes or ranks. There was a hierarchy of power and privilege. Okay? In the ancient Maya world, the ruler was considered divine. He was believed to be descended from the gods. He was the highest rank in society and enjoyed more power and privilege than anyone else. Below the ruler was the elite, which included members of the king's family and high-ranking government officials. The elite were also wealthy and powerful, but they ranked below the ruler. Below the elite were the commoners. Commoners made up the majority of the population, and they worked as farmers, artisans, and laborers. The last social class was the A class. Members of the A class were considered untouchables. They were responsible for occupations that were deemed impure, such as working with dead bodies or animal skins. Members of the A class were severely restricted in their movement and were often segregated from the rest of society. The social structure of the Maya is important to understand because it tells us how the Maya viewed their society. The Maya believed that the ruler was superior to everyone else. He was closer to the gods than anyone else. The elite were also considered to be superior to the commoners. They were wealthier and more powerful. The Maya believed that they lived in a hierarchical universe. The cosmos itself was divided into 3 levels: the underworld, the human world, and the heavens. The gods lived in the heavens, and the ruler was considered to be their representative on earth. He was the link between the human world and the divine world. With this understanding of Maya society, let's go back to the chert. Why would someone arrange thousands of pieces of chert in rows? The answer is simple. It was to create a pathway for the gods. The Maya believed that the ruler was the representative of the gods. If the ruler walked through a path made of precious material, he would be surrounded by the gods. Okay. The path would also serve as a reminder of the Maya's cosmic order. The arrangement of the chert would symbolize the hierarchical universe with the ruler at the top and the commoners at the bottom. In addition to creating a pathway for the gods, the chert may have also been used as a teaching tool. The arrangement of the chert could represent a constellation of stars, or it could depict a historical event. By tracing the path laid out by the chert, the Maya could recount their history. You are not remembered in carvings. Your name is not recorded. You do not sit at the ball game. You do not enter the palace. But your hands built the stairs. Your sweat darkened the stones. You sleep on mats woven from reeds. When it rains, the walls leak. When it is dry, the dust covers everything. You are not allowed to marry without permission. You are not allowed to leave the city without an escort. You are expected to remain loyal. You do not see gold. You do not touch jade. The beads you wear are made of shell or bone. Okay, your tattoos mark you as a temple servant, a design that others recognize instantly. You do not complain. It is not allowed. Some nights you dream of the forest, of walking far beyond the city, past the fields of maize and into the endless green. But you never leave. This story was inspired by the archaeological evidence I uncovered while excavating at Uzmal. While I never uncovered a path made of chert, I did find thousands of pieces of chert that were arranged in a specific pattern. The pattern didn't make sense to me at first, didn't fit any known Maya architectural style, okay? And it didn't appear to be a pathway or a teaching tool. It was only when I learned more about the social structure of the Maya that I realized the chert was probably used to create a pathway for the gods. In the city of the Jaguar, I lived for 3 years among the priests of a hidden temple. They taught me their language, customs, and history. At night, after the ceremonies were over and the tourists had gone home, they told me stories of the gods and how to read their signs. They shared their secrets, hoping to pass the torch before I left. But I didn't realize it at the time. So now, sitting alone in my hut, listening to the insistent drone of insects, I try to remember all that I learned. There's so much. So, where to start? Maybe with time. For the priests of the hidden temple, time was not measured in hours, minutes, or seconds, but in ceremonies. Each ceremony had its own sacred name, corresponded to a certain day on the sacred calendar. Each task of each day was tied to a ritual, a prayer, or an offering, and the rituals did not change. They had been performed for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, think they would continue long after I had gone. So let me tell you about a few of those days. On the 5th day of the token, which was also the 3rd day of the womb month of Kabin, you burned resin to honor the maize god. The priest would light a small pile of copal, a special sacred wood, and let the smoke drift toward the heavens. At eve, they prayed for guidance and protection and gave thanks for the coming harvest. The air grew thick with the smell of incense and the sound of cicadas. Later, during the evening ceremony, you would sprinkle the 4 directions with a spray made of resin and flowers and herbs. Okay. On the 12th day of the Soken, when the moon was new and the Papo Va was buried beneath the earth, you carried a painted skull to the altar. Okay. This was a reminder of death, but also of rebirth. For the priests, life was a cycle, an endless repetition of death and rebirth, darkness and light. Everything was temporary, nothing permanent. Even the universe itself would one day die and be reborn again. But fear not, said the priests, for even if the world comes to an end, there will be another world after this one, just as there was a world before. And we will be there too, in another form. On the 17th day of the Taizoken, you would clean the obsidian blades with water from the river and a prayer to the wind god. The blades were used for bloodletting, that is, drawing blood from the tongue or ear or penis. Blood was considered a sacred gift, a way to nourish the gods and sustain the world. It was a sign of great devotion to offer your blood, but also dangerous, for blood could easily spoil. To prevent this, you sprinkled the blades with salt, and then with water from the sacred river. The water washed away any impurities, and the salt preserved the blades until the next ceremony. For the priests, time was measured not in seconds, minutes, or hours, but in ceremonies. Each day was different. Each month was unique. Okay. There was no past, no future, only the eternal present of rituals. You may wonder, what was life like in the city of the Jaguar? Well, imagine this. You wake up before dawn. The sky is dark, but the air is warm. You can hear the distant roar of the jungle, the screech of monkeys, the chatter of birds. You washed your face in a basin of cold water and put on a simple white cotton shirt. Your sandals are worn, your trousers faded, your hair unwashed. You walk barefoot down the stone stairs of your hut and step onto the cracked clay floor. The path ahead of you is long and hot. The sun climbs higher and higher in the sky. The air grows thick and heavy, but never fear. For every hour there is a ceremony, every moment a ritual, every step a prayer. At noon, when the sun reaches its zenith, you stop in the shade of a huge tree. Its roots curl around an old stone altar. Here, you wait for the midday procession. From the temple above, you hear the beating of drums and the chanting of priests. Then you see them coming, 2 by 2, their faces painted, their bodies adorned with feathers and flowers. They carry staffs, banners, and offerings. They move with purpose, their steps firm and sure. Behind them comes the high priest, his face hidden behind a jaguar mask. He holds aloft a smoking torch and carries a bowl filled with blood. You kneel and watch as he sprinkles the 4 directions. Then he raises his hands and chants in a low voice. His words are ancient, his tone reverent. The other priests respond in unison, their voices echoing through the trees. When the ceremony is finished, they depart, disappearing into the forest. You wait a while longer, then continue on your way. The heat is oppressive, but there is no time to rest. Soon you will need to gather firewood, or perhaps tend the sacred fire. Maybe you will help prepare the evening meal, for there is always work to be done. The priests don't sleep much. They take short naps, stolen moments of peace between ceremonies. But there is no time for dreams. The gods do not sleep, And so, neither do you. Life goes on like this for months. You plant maize and beans. You harvest flowers and herbs. You grind corn and make tortillas. You cook meals for the priests. You mend sandals and clothes. You sit around and tell stories, remembering the journeys of your ancestors, the teachings of the old, the prophecies of the shamans. Okay. Sometimes there is music. A flute cuts through the stillness. A harp echoes in the trees. Okay. A drum beats a slow, deep rhythm that seems to vibrate in your bones. You dance with bare feet on bare earth, your arms raised to the sky, your eyes closed in ecstasy. But most days, there is only silence. The kind of silence that makes you feel small and insignificant. The kind of silence that you can almost see a heavy blanket draped over the land. Time passes slowly. The dry season gives way to the rainy. Torrential downpours turn the dusty roads into muddy tracks. Slithering snakes seek refuge in hollow logs. The humid air breeds biting ants and swarming bees. Thunder booms in the distance. Lightning splits the sky. Water lashes against the temple walls, drumming a wild tattoo on stone and tin roof. Then, suddenly, the sun breaks through the clouds. A brilliant rainbow arcs across the heavens. The air grows heavy with the scent of wet earth and flowering trees. The forest teems with life. Birds tweet from hidden branches. Squirrels chatter in the canopy. Butterflies flit among the blossoms. Steer graze in the meadows, their coats slicked with rain. Lizards bask on warm stones, their scales gleaming in the sun. The world is alive. The world is awake. But the priests don't celebrate. They know that every bright day is followed by an overcast night. Every joyful hour is followed by a sorrowful one. Life is a cycle, a constant ebb and flow, a continuous dance of light and darkness, birth and death, joy and sorrow. Each month, the priests perform the fire dance. You are not part of it. You watch from behind a column. The dancers wear deer skins and jaguar masks. Their movements are slow and deliberate, like those of animals. Teeny, they stamp their feet, shake their hips, mimic the hunt, leap and twirl, simulating the flight of birds. Their bodies sway and bend, becoming flexible branches. Then they begin the fire dance proper. One by one, they approach a pile of resin and kindling. They toss burning torches high in the air and catch them deftly. Flames lick up their bodies, but they are unharmed. The fire dances around them, but they are safe within its glow. Finally, they form a circle, their masks illuminated, their bodies swaying. The fire rises, casting long shadows on the temple walls, turning the priests into fantastic beasts, half man, half jaguar, dancing in the flickering light. Sometimes there is music. It's a slow, deep drum beat that seems to echo through your bones. And you think, maybe here, in this place, time does stand still. But maybe that's just a dream. After 3 years, I left the city of the jaguar. The priests saw me off at the edge of town, their faces sad, their eyes downcast. We embraced silently. I felt their sorrow, their sadness, their grief. I understood their fear. They knew that once I left, I might never return. That once I crossed the river, I would be gone forever. And they were right. Now, sitting alone in my hut, listening to the insistent drone of insects, I struggle to remember everything that I learned. The words are on the tip of my tongue, but they won't come out. The knowledge is in my heart, but I can't make sense of it. The memories are vivid, but they're slipping away. Was it a dream? I asked myself. Was everything I experienced, everything I learned, everything I loved, was it all just a dream? The answer, of course, is yes and no. Yes, it was a dream in the sense that it happened in a timeless, ritualistic bubble, a bubble that existed outside of normal human time. No, it wasn't a dream because everything I experienced, everything I learned, everything I loved, it's real. It's real because I remember it. It's real because it changed me. It's real because I carry it with me wherever I go. Today's quote comes from a poet named Neil Hilborn. It goes, "They say he speaks with the gods, that his blood is not like yours, that his breath carries power. He eats from golden plates. He bathes in flower-scented water. He listens to music played by flutes carved from bone and shell, and yet he too will die." We're going to talk about what this means and where it comes from. Obviously, this passage, these lines were written from the perspective of someone who was serving the king. Now, we don't know who the king is. We don't know which kingdom we're talking about here. Is this a fantasy world? Is this medieval Europe? Is this ancient Egypt? We don't know. But what we do know is that there is a stark contrast drawn between the lifestyle of the people in the upper class, right? The nobles, the kings, and the perspective of the narrator, who seems to be kind of at the very bottom rung of society. The passage opens with this detail. Far above your quarters, the nobles live in painted rooms. Their walls are smooth. Their beds are raised. Their food is cooked with spices you have never tasted. Wear jade. They ride in litters. They speak in poetry and command with a glance. You see them pass sometimes, carried up the temple steps, or walking with their attendants behind them. Dia, do not look at you. First of all, the opening line, far above your quarters, immediately establishes this physical distance between the nobles and the servants. Right away, the speaker says that the rooms where the nobles live are painted, which emphasizes the fact that they're cut off from the world. These are four walls, a bed, and a roof, and the rest of the world doesn't really matter because everything else is just painted on the wall. So this idea of being removed from the real world, of living in a sort of gilded cage, is established pretty early on. The beds are raised, so again, the nobles are elevated both literally and metaphorically. The food is cooked with spices you have never tasted, which shows that they eat really well, but also that they have access to things that commoners do not. There is a really big difference between the food that is available to the king and the food that is available to someone who is basically a servant. The king is wearing jade, which is a really valuable material, and he's riding in a litter, which is like a type of palanquin. It's a fancy basket thing that you can be carried in. It's borne by two bearers. And lastly, they speak in poetry and they command with a glance. And again, this is just emphasizing how different the nobles are from everyone else. They behave in an elevated way. They don't really need to interact with anyone. They can just sit back and let everyone else do the work for them. And then the speaker says that you see them sometimes when they're going up the temple steps, when they're walking behind them, but they never acknowledge you. They don't even look at you. This really reinforces this sense of class division. And then the speaker says, you clean the courtyard where his litter is placed. You scrub the stones he walks upon. And this is really interesting to me, because while the king is clearly very powerful, while he has all of these nice things, he still has to walk on stones that are clean and smooth, right? The speaker cleans the stones so that the king can walk on them. And this detail actually makes me think of something. Does anyone remember that Bollywood movie, Lagan? It's the movie that was nominated for an Oscar. Well, there is a scene in Lagan where Amir Khan's character has to walk barefoot across hot coals to prove that he's not afraid of anything. And before he does this, his friend goes ahead and cleans the coals. I'm not saying this is exactly what happens in the story, but what I am saying is that there's this emphasis on the details, right? It's not just about the fact that the king gets to ride in a litter and eat good food. It's also about the fact that everything around him needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be absolutely ideal for the king because he's so important. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Do you think that leaders today, especially democratic leaders, are in touch with their people? Because obviously we have social media, we have press conferences, we have interviews, but at the same time, I wonder if there's this invisible barrier between leaders and the rest of us. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Back to the poem. The next part of the passage says, "They say he speaks with the gods, that his blood is not like yours, that his breath carries power. He eats from golden plates. Hey, he bathes in flower-scented water, listens to music played by flutes carved from bone and shell." So now we're getting into this idea of the divine right of kings, the idea that kings are chosen by God to rule over their people. In fact, some kings were believed to actually be descendants of God. For example, the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. When someone is said to speak with the gods, it means that they have direct access to the divine. It means that they are in regular contact with higher powers. And this elevates the king even further. He's not just a person with a lot of money and power. He's literally a conduit between the mortal world and the divine world. This idea is emphasized when the speaker says that the king's blood is not like yours. The implication is that the king's blood might be holy, it might be consecrated, or it might just be pure. Again, this idea of the king having a different kind of blood than the rest of the people is meant to elevate him, to separate him. It reminds me of Romeo and Juliet, when Juliet says, "My only love sprung from my only hate. Too early seen, too late." So checks the end of this day's business done, with having made one enemy. My true love's hate. And she says, "Oh, curse, curse, curse. Oh God, God, God." And she curses the day that she was born, the day that her family became her enemies. The name of her family, Montague, is changed to My Only Love. She literally changes the spelling of her name because she wants to remove herself from the equation. She doesn't want to be associated with the hatred of her family, with the rivalry, with the violence. She just wants to be associated with love. And then the speaker says that his breath carries power. And this is another way of saying that the king is basically a god among men. The final 3 lines of the passage say, "He eats from golden plates. He bathes in flower-scented water. He listens to music played by flutes carved from bone and shell." And this is just a description of the luxuries that the king enjoys. The king eats from gold. Everything around him is gold. And again, it's emphasized that the narrator scrubs the stones that the king walks on. He cleans the courtyard where the king's litter is placed. The king is surrounded by luxury. He hears beautiful music played by flutes made out of bone and shell. He smells delicious flowers. He's clean. He's perfumed. His food is perfectly cooked. He has everything that he could ever want. But then the final line of the passage completely cuts through all of this luxury, and it says, "And yet he too will die." The king will die. His bones will be placed in a sealed chamber, his name carved in stone. His offerings left in darkness. And you, the nameless servant, will clean the steps once more. I think this last line is such a powerful image because it brings everything full circle. The entire passage is about this stark contrast between the lives of the king and the servant. And this last line blurs the distinction because it says that no matter how much power you have, no matter how much money you have, no matter how divine you think you are, you're still gonna die. And after you die, your body is just gonna be thrown into a dark tomb. No one's gonna remember that you were ever there. And the servant who scrubbed the stones that you walked on, he's gonna go on living. He's gonna continue to clean the courtyard. He's gonna continue to make sure that everything is perfect for the next king, for the next set of nobles. And in a way, the power dynamic is reversed because it's clear that the king is dependent on the servant, dependent on people like the narrator. Without the people who keep their surroundings clean, without the people who cook their food, without the people who entertain them, the nobles wouldn't be able to live their luxurious lives. And yet, they fail to recognize that. They fail to acknowledge the existence of people like the narrator. And that's why I think the last line is so effective. It reminds us that all of our lives are basically the same. All of our lives are the same length, chess, and none of us really have any control over what happens to us. The rain falls all night long here. It drums against the thatched roof of my hut. Pitter, patter, pitter, patter. I wake to it and sleep to it. The rain, it's constant. And if you listen closely, it's speaking to you, whispering secrets from across the rooftops. Every object has meaning in the temple. Every bowl, every feather, every shard of obsidian. When the Spanish came, they could not comprehend that we gave names to everything. They called us heathens, savages, uncivilized. But we knew there was a spirit in the forest, a spirit in the wind, a spirit in the water, a spirit in the fire, a spirit in the mountain. You do not ask why a certain shell is placed next to the god statue. You simply do as you are told. Each morning, when the sky is the color of ripe mango and the spider lilies are unfurling, I go to the temple with offerings. Dried flowers, crushed cacao, animal bones, sometimes tiny figurines shaped from clay. I set them down in specific order, left to right, dark to light, large to small. I do not know the reason. I am not meant to. After a few days, the items are removed, burned, buried, taken to the caves beneath the temple, or thrown into the synod. The cycle continues. New offerings take their place. You must understand the significance of the synod. It is an opening in the earth to the underworld. It is an ancient well, one of many. Sacred sinkhole filled with water, so clear and pure it seems unnatural. There are other synods, some hidden deep in the jungle, others shrouded by vines and trees. But this one is special. The Synodi is where the Mayans washed their sins. They would climb the ladder, one at a time, and jump. If you jumped backwards, you were reborn. If you jumped forwards, you joined the gods. There are no remains in the bottom of this note, because if you fell to your death, you did not belong to the world of the living or the dead. You belonged to the gods, and the gods demanded perfection. So only those who have done nothing wrong would jump into the synod. We do not walk barefoot here. We do not walk in sandals either. Only the priests walk in sandals. The rest of us wrap agave fibers around our feet for protection. There are biting ants and stinging wasps and scorpions that fall from the sky. You will step on thorns and broken glass and 1,000 tiny pebbles. By the end of the day, your feet will be bleeding. And what do? You put on more agave fibers. You do not complain. You do as you are told. I hear them coming before I see them. The men who wear sandals. They march to the beat of a drum. It is a steady, solemn sound. I watch them pass by my hut and disappear into the temple. I leave my weaving and I go to the market. I sell tamales, thick and juicy, filled with pork or chicken or venison, maybe some beans or squash blossoms. My husband made those. He said they were delicious, but I never tried them. He went to the temple one day and he never came back. I do not think about him much anymore. I am too busy. There is a priestess among the visitors. Skis. She wears ornaments of jade, and her hair is bound with gold thread. She stops by my stall and asks for food. She speaks in a language that sounds like wind chimes and tinkling bells. I do not understand her words, but I bring her what she asked for, and I smile politely. She looks at me strangely, and then she is gone. When the vendors have packed up their wares and the tourists are gone, the priests stay behind. They have come to consult with the gods. They pray and they plead and they sacrifice. You cannot enter the temple after dark. You must wait until dawn, when the colibri return and the jungle awakens. Then you may enter the temple, but only if you are invited. The priest whispers to a bowl of maize before placing it on the altar. He does not look at you. You do not speak of it. Sometimes the gods demand blood, but not human blood. That is a myth. The Spaniards wrote stories about it, but they never understood. We only offer the blood of animals, animals that have been given to us by the gods. I watched a deer fall into the trap the other day. Its eyes were wide with terror. I closed my eyes and covered my mouth. When I looked again, the deer was still, its legs stiff, its head lolling. The hunter brought it to me, laid it out on the mat. Shh. I ran my fingers along its spine, feeling the heat of its body. Soon it would be cold, then hard, then dry, then brittle. The priestess is back. She walks through the marketplace. This time, she is not alone. Two men follow close behind her, their eyes downcast. They are young men, barely more than boys. See the fear in their eyes. I see the blood on their hands. They have been marked for the temple. I turn away. I do not want to see them. The priestess sees me watching, and she smiles. She beckons to me. I shake my head. She frowns, then shrugs, and walks away. There is no feast here. There are no celebrations. We are not allowed to laugh or make merry. We are not allowed to be happy. You can feel the joy in your chest, but you do not let it show. Your face is impassive. Your eyes are dull. You are a servant of the gods. You do not feel anything. There are 2 moons in the sky tonight. I see the priest running toward me. His feet do not touch the ground. He moves like a jaguar. He reaches me in 3 long strides. His eyes are wide and shining. His teeth are bared in a snarl. "Come with me," he growls. I nod, and I follow him into the temple. He leads me to the altar. There is an offering there for the gods, a heart. I flinch, but the priest shakes his head. "No, not yet. Not tonight. The offering is for tomorrow. I'm to guard it until the morning. I'm to keep it safe from the dogs and the rats and the ants and the scavengers. I am to keep it safe from the priestess. She stands behind me, her breath hot on my neck. Her fingers dig into my shoulders. I stiffen, but she pays no attention. She watches the offering, her eyes narrowed. When the moon is high overhead, the priestess steps forward. She takes a knife from the folds of her skirt. It glints in the torchlight. She turns to me. Her smile is cold and sharp. She holds out the knife. "Do you want to join the gods?" she whispers. "Do you want to fly like a bird, or swim like a fish, or run like a deer? Do you want to be one with the jaguar? Do you want to be perfect?" The moon is full and round like a silver dollar. The spiders have spun their webs between the trees. The air is heavy and sweet. The humidity clings to your skin like a second body. I do not sleep tonight. I sit by the fire and I watch the flames dance and flicker. In the morning, the priest comes for the offering. It is still there, untouched, unblemished. He gives me a strange look. Then he takes the knife and he cuts the heart into pieces. He lays the pieces on the mat and he arranges them in a circle. Around the heart, he places 4 bowls, each filled with something different. One contains water, one contains corn, liquor, one contains crushed maize, and one contains a white powder. He sets the 5th bowl down on top of the heart. I know what he is doing. I've seen it before, but I pretend that I don't. He begins to chant. The words are low and rumbling, like the distant growl of a tiger. He pours the contents of one bowl into another. He repeats the process until all the bowls have been emptied, except the last one. He pours that one out too, and then he takes a pinch of the white powder. He puts it on his tongue. He swallows. He falls to his knees. He bows his head. He is one with the gods. I do not know how long he stays there. I do not want to know. When he rises, his eyes are vacant. He looks like a puppet without strings. He walks away. I watch him go. The rain begins again. It falls harder now. The pitter, patter, a steady drumbeat on the roof. I lie down on my mat. I pull my shawl tight around me. I try to sleep, but the rhythm of the rain is too much. I get up and I start to dance. I spin and I twist and I sway. I move to the beat of the drum. The rain is my music. The storm is my soul. They say that life is a journey. It's a path we all walk, each in our own direction. So wander aimlessly, while others stride purposefully toward a distant horizon. Carry with us the weight of our choices, our regrets, our hopes, and our dreams. As we navigate this journey, we encounter crossroads that test our resolve, challenge our beliefs, and shape our destinies. In this video, we want to explore these pivotal moments, these forks in the road that define who we are or who we could be. Let's begin. You have learned to be quiet, not just with your voice, with your feet, your breath, your presence. When you walk, you do not shuffle. When you work, you do not cough. When the priests pass, you bow your head. When the nobles appear, you disappear. You do not express emotion. Joy is not appropriate. Anger is not safe. Curiosity is not useful. The temple walls do not echo with laughter. They echo with chants, with wind, with the steady rhythm of work. The more silent you are, the longer you remain. You remember one attendant who asked too many questions. He wanted to see the calendar room. He wanted to understand the gods. He was sent away. No one knows where. Since then, you have spoken less. The weight of silence presses upon you like the midday sun, heavy and unwavering. Each day is a testament to your restraint, a silent prayer to the gods for endurance. Your hands, calloused and strong from years of dedicated service, now bear the marks of time and patience. Your eyes, once bright with youthful curiosity, have turned inward, reflecting a wisdom born of introspection and sacrifice. In the hallowed halls of the temple, your footsteps have become whispers. Every move is precise, economical, devoid of unnecessary sound. You move through the labyrinthine corridors with the grace of one who has memorized the path, each step echoing the silent rhythm of devotion. Your gaze, once as vibrant and curious as the morning sky, has softened into a serene landscape. It's a vastness that mirrors the endless expanse of the cosmos, holding within it the secrets of existence and the mysteries of the divine. The priests pass by, their robes flowing like liquid moonlight, and you lower your head in reverence. Their presence is a tidal wave of sanctity, momentarily eclipsing all thoughts and sounds. And when they pass, your head rises slowly, like a flower turning to the sun, but the image of their serene faces lingers in your mind. You cannot comprehend their thoughts, their connection to the gods, their access to the sacred texts. Yet you respect their dedication, their unwavering faith. Their every gesture is a lesson, their every word a verse from a scripture you are not permitted to read. Their lives are a tapestry, woven with the threads of spirituality, sacrifice, and service. A tapestry you admire from afar, unable to touch, yet forever in awe. In the grand court, the nobles gather, their voices weaving a tapestry of intrigue and power. You fade into the tapestry's weave, becoming one with the shadows, unseen, unheard, unnoticed. Their world is a realm of silk and steel, of alliances and betrayals, of whispered plots and veiled threats. While you, with your rough hands and calloused feet, are a stark reminder of a simpler life. Your existence is an interruption to their intricate dance, a discordant note in their symphony of deceit. Yet you do not shrink in their presence. You stand firm, rooted in your purpose, your silence a bulwark against their manipulative whispers. Your life is measured in breaths, in the rise and fall of the temple's heart, in the gentle pulse of the city. For beyond the temple's sheltering embrace, chaos reigns. The city throbs with a chaotic energy. Merchants hawk their wares, their voices competing with the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer and the lilting tunes of street musicians. Peddlers weaved tales as colorful as the fabrics they sell, while children's laughter mingles with the shouts of vendors. It's a cacophony of life, of existence, lived on the edge of the blade, where fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye. Yet you find solace in the predictability of the temple routine, in the comforting sameness of rituals repeated over countless cycles of sunrise and sunset. Here, within these ancient walls, time slows its relentless march, allowing you to breathe, to exist without the pressing need to acquire, to possess, to dominate. In the temple's sanctuary, you are not defined by what you own or what is owed to you, but by the depth of your commitment, the purity of your intentions, and the sincerity of your devotion. The temple is your constant, a steadfast presence amidst the city's turbulent tides. It's a place where the echoes of chanting mingle with the whisper of history, where the scent of incense and the flicker of oil lamps paint moments of tranquility. Within these hallowed halls, you are not merely an attendant, but a thread in the very fabric of tradition, your existence interwoven with the timeless rituals that have stood the test of ages. When hunger pangs strike, you do not complain. You eat sparingly from the offerings, enough to quiet the grumbling of your stomach, not enough to satisfy fully. You have long since surrendered the luxury of satiation. To complain is a waste of breath. Dissatisfaction only invites torment. You have learned to find contentment in the smallest morsels, for you have witnessed firsthand what hunger can drive a man to. Your sleep is on a mat, a thin blanket over the hard stone floor. Comfort is a stranger to you. The chill of the night seeps into your bones, but you do not shiver. You do not cry out. You endure. The other attendants gossip about their dreams. They speak of home and hearth, of parents and siblings. They yearn for touch, for the taste of fresh fruit, for the feel of warm clothing. They dream of escape, of freedom. You do not join their whispers. You do not share their hopes. Your dreams are of service, of duty, of sacrifice. You dream of order, of routine, of the faint, sweet smell of temple flowers. For you, the concept of home is as distant and unfamiliar as the stars. You have given up the right to dream. And in that surrender, you have found a strange kind of freedom. A freedom from desire, from want, from the chains of human connection. Your existence is a fortress, impenetrable, unyielding, a testament to your unwavering commitment to a life of service and solitude. In the quiet hours before dawn, you sneak into the garden. Amidst the dew-kissed petals and the symphony of birdsong, you find a semblance of solace. Now, the garden is alive with the promise of a new day, with the whisper of life that stirs in the gentle rustle of leaves. The vibrant hues of blooming flowers mirror the fleeting emotions you've long since buried. You touch a velvety petal, inhale the intoxicating fragrance, and for a moment, you're not an attendant, but simply a being experiencing the beauty of existence. But the tranquility is short-lived. Soon, the rising sun will paint the sky with hues of gold and crimson, signaling the start of another day of service. And you, the eternal attendant, will resume your place in the temple's ceaseless ritual. You have no family. You would never promise any future. You have no story. You have no self. The world is indifferent to your existence. If you fell to your knees, no one would notice. If you breathed a little too loudly, no one would hear. If you disappeared, no one would care. You were nothing. You were no one. You are simply here. As you continue your silent vigil, you reflect on the countless faces that have come and gone. Some have left, taking their stories and their laughter with them. Others have remained, drawn into the temple's enigmatic embrace. Each face is a chapter in the grand narrative of existence. Each story a testament to the complexities of the human experience. You have seen joy and sorrow, hope and despair, love and loss, all reflected in the eyes that have sought solace within these ancient walls. You have been a silent witness to the ebb and flow of human emotions, a keeper of untold tales. Your life is a cycle of seasons within the grand tapestry of the cosmos. Just as the celestial bodies traverse their timeless paths, so too do you follow the rhythms of devotion, sacrifice, and service. You are a celestial body in your own right, revolving around the sun's warmth with an unwavering dedication. Your existence is a beacon of constancy in a world that spins on its axis, oblivious to your silent vigil. Like the stars that have witnessed the birth and death of civilizations, you stand resolute, an eternal attendant, your spirit shining brightly in the grand theater of existence. The villagers have always been here. That's all anyone knows. Generations living within the protective stone walls of the city, safe from the dangers of the outside world, or so they thought. Beyond those high walls, nestled between rolling hills and glistening rivers, lies an ancient jungle, thick, green, and endless. The villagers rarely go beyond the cornfields that surround the city, but when they do, they notice the silence is different there. It's alive, humming, and pulsing. Here, birds cry out from their hidden branches. Insects hum, but the trees creak and sway with the wind, whispering secrets in a language long forgotten. One day, someone from the village is sent to gather herbs in the forbidden jungle. The journey is long. The path is narrow. Carry a basket and a sharp stone knife. You've been told to look for specific leaves, bark, and flowers. You know what some will be used for: healing salves and potions. Others, you know not. They are for rituals, potent magic, wielded by shamans in the service of the gods. The forest provides what the city needs, but the city offers nothing in return. No sound carries through the thick foliage. No light penetrates the thick canopy above, but you are not alone. In the trees, you see eyes watching you, gleaming like chips of obsidian in the dim light. You hear sounds that make your skin crawl, snapping twigs, rustling leaves, then a low growl that reverberates in your chest, something powerful, predatory. Fear tightens its icy fingers around your heart. What manner of beast lurks just beyond your sight? A sudden movement in the underbrush makes you jump. Your hand instinctively goes to the knife at your belt. Is it a wild dog? A jaguar, perhaps? You hold your breath, listening intently. It's the sound of heavy paws on soft earth. Then it's gone. Was it real, or a figment of your fear-addled imagination? As you push deeper into the silent wood, you spot a fallen log up ahead. You hesitate, unsure if you should climb over or under. It looks old, this log. Perhaps you can simply step over it. As you move closer, you notice markings carved into the bark. Strange symbols that seem to writhe and twist like living things. Are they a warning? You run your fingers over the cool wood, trying to decipher their meaning. You don't want to linger here, not with whatever else might be hiding in the dense undergrowth. Quickly, you turn away and scramble over the log. Behind you, the jungle seems to sigh. The trees swing as if in slumber. Pushing through a curtain of vines, you emerge into a small clearing. In the center stands a towering tree, its gnarled branches reaching towards the sky like supplicating arms. The jungle feels different here, lighter somehow. And then you notice the carvings in the tree's rough bark. They're the same symbols you saw on the log, only more faded, more worn with time. You reach out to touch them, feeling a strange pull, a connection that sends shivers down your spine. Suddenly, the air grows cold, the shadows around you deepening. A presence seems to loom over you, ancient and powerful. You whirl around, heart pounding, but see nothing. Just the whispering trees and the watchful eyes of the jungle. Was it real, or merely your imagination playing tricks in the oppressive quiet? What was that presence, and why did it stir such primal fear and fascination within you? You shake off the unnerving encounter and continue your search for the herbs you came for. Time seems to slip away as you navigate the labyrinthine paths of the jungle. Finally, you spot the telltale signs you've been searching for, a cluster of vibrant blue flowers growing beside a moss-covered stone. You kneel beside them, carefully plucking a few blooms, their petals cool and smooth beneath your fingertips. As you rise, you notice a glint of sunlight on a nearby rock face. You move closer, squinting against the sudden brightness, and discover a series of intricate carvings. The figures depicted seem frozen in time, their expressions a mix of sorrow and serene acceptance. Who are these people, and what is the meaning of their solemn visages? You remember now? This place was once a sacred site, a nexus of power where the veil between worlds was thin. Its carvings, they are more than just decorations. They are keys, each one opening pathways to forgotten realms and realities. You feel a surge of excitement, a heady mix of fear and exhilaration. Could you unlock these secrets if you dared to touch them? With trembling hands, you reach out to trace the lines of a nearby carving. Its contours, smooth and worn from countless hands that have come before you. As your fingers make contact, a jolt of energy surges through you, vivid images flashing behind your eyelids. A world of myth and magic, of celestial beings and primordial chaos. Think just as quickly, it's gone, leaving you breathless and shaken. What have you awakened, and how do you stop it? You stumble back, heart pounding, seeking solace in the familiar. But the jungle has changed. The trees seem to press closer, their branches entwining overhead to form a dense, impenetrable canopy. The air grows heavy, charged with an unseen energy that prickles your skin. The whispers in the leaves grow louder, taking on a menacing tone. Panic begins to set in. You need to get out, to escape the oppressive embrace of the jungle before it's too late. With newfound urgency, you push through the suffocating foliage, desperate to break free of the jungle's clutches. Each step is fraught with peril, each rustle sending fresh jolts of fear through your veins. As you stumble over gnawed roots and fallen logs, the oppressive atmosphere pressing down on you. You know you're being watched, stalked by unseen eyes in the darkening wood. Then you see it, the glimmer of the river up ahead, the open sky, a beacon of hope beyond the trees. With renewed determination, you surge forward, pushing aside the last of the vines and bursting into the open. Gasping for breath, you collapse onto the riverbank, trembling. The jungle's oppressive presence lifting with every meter you put between yourself and the trees. As you catch your breath, the full extent of your ordeal hits you. The jungle had tested you, pushed you to the brink of panic, and you had survived. You rise to your feet, brushing dirt and leaves from your clothes, and turn back to the jungle. The river flows steadily between them, a constant in the face of the jungle's eternal youth. The setting sun paints the sky in hues of orange and purple, as the jungle stands silhouetted against the fading light. You gaze at the trees, their shadows stretching and twisting on the ground like grasping claws. The wind rustles through the leaves, carrying whispers on its breath, and you wonder what secrets they hold, what mysteries lie buried within the emerald depths. What would you do, knowing what you know now? Would you venture back into the jungle? Knowing what you know now, would you brave the whispering trees and hidden perils to uncover the secrets of the ancient world? Or would you turn away, content to live your life within the safety of the village walls, forever ignorant of the magic and menace that lay beyond? The choice, like the jungle itself, is yours to explore. The first time someone called me a temple rat, I was 12 years old. My grandmother had taken me to the Raja Rani temple in Thanjavur for the morning prayer. It was customary for all families of the temple to attend that prayer. We would line up along with other families from our clan and join in the chanting. That's how I learned my first Sanskrit sloka, Jaya Jaya Shankara. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew how to chant it. Afterward, while we were having breakfast at the temple, someone said to me, "You look like a temple rat running around the temple every day." I didn't understand the insult. All I knew was that I loved running around the temple. We'd go down the Gopuram steps, take a deep breath of the incense smoke and the ghee that dripped from the wick of the temple lamp, run through the market street dodging vendors and their wares, peek into the various shops to see what treasures they kept hidden, and then return to the temple before the next prayer. At the temple, I would climb the bell tower, touch the massive bell, swing on the rope cart before the priest arrived for the noon prayer. He never caught me, But he did warn us once that no one should swing on his cart ever again. I promised I wouldn't. I liked climbing up the tall pillars that supported the Vimana. From there, I could see over the compound wall. I liked watching the world outside the temple. Most of all, I liked the freedom. I liked the silence. I liked the solitude. I liked being alone in the vastness of the temple. But most of all, I liked the stories the temple told. Each pillar had a story. Each frieze had a story. Okay. Even the gaps between the stones had stories. Okay. The temple was a book without words, and I wanted to read it. So I sat at the base of each pillar and carved a new story. I drew pictures of kings giving elephants and horses to the temple. I drew pictures of warriors on chariots, of Apsaras dancing in the sky. I drew pictures of Hindu gods and goddesses. And then I colored them with bits of flower petals, turmeric, white clay, red clay, charcoal, and more. I painted until I was sure the gods themselves were smiling down at me. Now, the temple was built around 1,000 years ago, and since then, its walls have absorbed the prayers of millions. Its floors have carried the weight of countless feet. The temple has seen empires rise and fall. Teeth has felt the tread of armies march and retreat. It has stood through droughts and floods, seen devotees dance in joy and despair. And I was born to serve this temple. I am the daughter of the temple priest. I am the granddaughter of the temple priest. I am the great-granddaughter of the temple priest, and I am the temple rat. I woke up with the first rays of sun painting the ceiling, the walls, and me. The first sound I heard was the rooster crowing. It was always the same. Years pass, the tasks stay the same. You wake, you sweep, you carry, you bow, you clean, you listen. Every day is the same. This is a small village. Our houses are nestled amidst fields. Green fields in the rainy season, brown fields in summer, and in winter, fields of gold. The monsoon brings life. People come out of their houses and stand in the rain. Children jump in the puddles and laugh. The pond fills, water overflows and seeps into the fields. The parched earth drinks the water. We dance in the rain. And when the rain stops, we run around the fields to check the crops, pick plantains and mangoes and papayas. Okay. We gather around the radio to listen to Vivida Bharati. Then the wind arrives. The sky darkens. The palm trees bend. The rain falls heavily again. We huddle around the radio. Now we listen to Akashvani, pray that the crops can withstand the wind. In the end, the rain washes away the dust. And after a few days, the sun shines again. The crops survive. We cheer. Then the fields become dry again, and we start praying for rain again. The seasons shift. Dry, then rain, then dry again. The temple walls grow darker with age. The murals fade, bit by bit. The red turns to orange, then to yellow, then to brown. The blue turns to gray, and then to black. But the pillars stand strong. Okay. Their stories remain the same. I too grow older. I have gray hair now. I have wrinkles on my face and hands. My bones ache. When I wake up, I feel stiffness in my joints. Sometimes I forget words. Sometimes I forget names. Sometimes I forget stories. But I remember the rhythm of the temple. I remember its silence. I remember its solitude. I remember the freedom. The temple needs hands, and mine still move. I walk up and down the Gopuram steps. I ring the bell. I light the lamp. Arrange the flowers. I sweep the floor. I polish the idol. I climb up the bell tower and swing on the rope cart. No one asked me to lead. No one asked me to explain. But the temple needs hands, and mine still move. I wonder if the gods remember my name. I wonder if they see me. The gods do not speak. I don't know what they think, but I feel their presence around me. They watch me arrange the garlands. They watch me light the lamp. They watch me sweep the floor. They watch me sing. They watch me dance. I feel their gaze on me. So I work harder. The village children tease me. They call me Temple Rat. My daughter says she wants to go to college. She doesn't want to live in a village. She doesn't want to sweep the floor. Doesn't want to arrange flowers. She doesn't want to light lamps. Okay? But I tell her that the temple needs hands. And someday, her hands will also move. One day soon, the government will renovate the temple. They will send experts from Chennai. They'll use new techniques to clean the idols. They will use new materials to paint the murals. They will bring in new artisans to carve new pillars. They will build new toilets and new rooms. They will make new rules. They will put up new signboards. Okay? They will tell us how to behave. They will tell us what to wear. They will tell us what to do and what not to do. But I tell the young priest to be careful. I tell him the temple is alive. It breathes. It lives. Through the centuries, it has adapted to changes. It survived earthquakes and floods, droughts and famines, invasions and riots. But it survived. I tell him to be careful. If you try to change it, it will not change. It will destroy you. The young priest smiles. He thinks I am crazy. I know. He thinks I am a temple rat. He knows. The temple is my life. I am its rat. I am its servant. I am its caretaker. I am its daughter. I am the one who sweeps the floor, and I sweep the same floor again and again, okay? And again. I want you to look at this sculpture. This is an Aztec sculpture. It's currently in the British Museum, okay? And it's called the Tlaloc Monolith. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you might be familiar with this piece, but I want you to really study it right now. See anything interesting? Let me know in the comments what you see. Give me your interpretation of this sculpture down below. In fact, let's take it one step further. I want you to imagine you're the sculptor. It's the year 1480. You're working here in the main courtyard of a great city. You're working on this monolith. It's going to be installed soon, so we're going to need to get it finished up. Where's it going? Well, it's headed to the main temple of the great Lord of Rain and Thunder. Tlaloc is going to be placed at the base of his statue, at the base of the great altar where sacrifices will be given to him. Now, you're an artisan. You're well fed, but you work long hours. You have to meet quotas. You're a simple guy, just doing your job, putting food on the table for you and your family. But when you finish this piece, when it's complete, it's going to be thousands of years before anyone knows who you are. Your name will be lost to time. Even if someone found your bones, they wouldn't know who you were. No one will sing songs about you. No one will tell stories about your incredible skill, okay? You will be forgotten, okay? But some archaeologists in the future might speculate that you had a certain type of skill set, okay? They might theorize that you likely lived a life not unlike the common folk, okay? They might guess that you probably died young, perhaps even in your 20s. They might say that you probably didn't make it much past the age of 30, and maybe that's true. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you finished your work and that the tribute to Tlaloc was complete. You are anonymous, but your work endures. You are the nameless artisan. Okay. Long before you arrived, others built the temple. They did not have metal tools, okay? Only stone hammers, obsidian blades, ropes made of agave fiber, okay? The limestone was quarried from nearby cliffs. It was carved with slow precision and pulled by many hands. You were told that 1,000 people worked for years. They carried heavy blocks over logs. They climbed crude scaffolds. They passed buckets of mortar made from burned limestone and water. They did not build for comfort. They built for the gods. No names are carved for them. There are no murals of their faces, but without them, there would be no altar, no steps, no place for kings to kneel or priests to chant. When you walk across the plaza, you can still see the grooves worn into the stone by their sandals. You follow them without thinking. The temple stands because they worked silently, endlessly, just as you do now. What I just read to you is something I wrote. In fact, That entire passage is something I wrote for an interactive story I created for a platform. I love writing these sorts of things. I'm kind of a nerd like that. Okay. That passage in particular was inspired by this very sculpture. It's called the Tlaloc Monolith, and it's in the British Museum. I really like this sculpture. I really like this piece for a few reasons, but mostly I like it because it speaks to me of all of those nameless artisans that built the temples. Guys like you. We don't know who they are. We don't know anything about them, but we can see the results of their labor. We can see the results of their skill. And I really like that. There's another reason why I really like this sculpture, and that's the mystery around it. The first time I saw it, I actually didn't know what it was. I didn't know that it was supposed to be Tlaloc. I didn't know that it was a monolithic figure. I didn't know that it was made by the Aztecs. I literally saw this in the British Museum, and I looked at it and I thought, that's weird. And then I walked away. And then I came back and I studied it some more. I looked at the details, looked at the features. I tried to determine, okay, what culture is this from? How old is it? Who made it? Why did they make it? And I couldn't come to any conclusions. I did know that it was pre-Columbian, but that's about it. I couldn't narrow it down any further. I thought, wow, that's amazing. To me, I think what's amazing about this is that this is the result of so much work. This is the result of so many artisans coming together and contributing their skill set to something larger than themselves. This is truly a team effort. It's not an individual thing. Okay. This is a bunch of people working together to pay tribute to their gods. The other day, I posted a poll on my social media asking people if they liked sculptures like this. You know, sculptures of deities and whatnot. And I was surprised by the amount of hate this piece got. It really surprised me. A lot of people said they hated it. They said it was ugly. They said they weren't fans. I was like, whoa, really? Because I'm not really sure how else to put it. I mean, obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay. But to me, this is an amazing piece of work. I mean, look at the detail on the face. Look at the work that went into the hands, okay? Look at the detail on the feathers, okay? Look at the way the robe is flowing. I mean, that's just crazy, okay? If you zoom in on any part of this, you'll see that there's so much detail. There's so much work that went into every single square inch of this sculpture. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year I went to the British Museum and I was able to see this in person. And it's even more impressive in person. I mean, it's huge. It's a giant slab of rock, thousands of pounds. They carved all this detail into it. They carved all this imagery onto it. Accoutrements and everything else. And they pulled it all out of a rock face. To me, that's absolutely mind-blowing. To think that they were able to do this, that they were able to create something so beautiful, so amazing, that they were able to do this and pass it off to us, to future generations, that we can enjoy it, that we can marvel at it, that we can wonder at it, that we can use it as inspiration, okay? I mean, isn't that amazing? If you look closely at the sculpture, you can see where different artisans worked on different parts of it. It's parts of it that are more detailed than other parts. It's parts of it where it looks like the stone is smoother than other places. And that's because the artisans that were working on this likely had different skill sets. Maybe one guy was really good at carving faces, so he carved all of the faces on the sculpture. Maybe he was really good at carving birds, so he carved all of the birds on the sculpture, okay? Maybe there was a guy that was really good at carving hands, so he did all of the hands on the sculpture. Who knows? But what I do know is that each hand is slightly different. Each face is slightly different. And that to me is fascinating. And so the next time you see this sculpture, whether it's in the British Museum or virtually, I want you to keep all of this in mind. I want you to think about all of the artisans that worked on this. I want you to think about how long it took. I want you to think about the tools that they used. I want you to think about how they quarried the stone. I want you to think about how they moved the stone. I want you to think about all of the logistics that went into building something like this. I also want you to try and understand that they worked in obscurity. They worked in anonymity. They did not do this for fame. They did not do this to get their name in lights. They did not do this to be recognized. They did this because they needed to pay tribute to their gods. And that is a beautiful thing. And that's something that I hope you never forget. So the next time you see this sculpture, I want you to take it all in. I want you to appreciate the work. I want you to appreciate the skill. I want you to appreciate the mystery surrounding it. And most of all, I want you to remember that this is the work of the nameless artisans. These are the guys that you're working alongside of. These are the guys that you're repaying tribute to, the same guys that you've been paying tribute to for all of eternity. These are the guys that you're working alongside of right now. And without them, we would not have our jobs. Without them, we could not do what we do. Without them, we would not have a practice. Without them, we would not have a tradition. Without them, we would not have a history. Without them, we would not have an art form. They are anonymous, but their work endures. You've always been curious about Hinduism, but it seems so complicated. So many gods, goddesses, and concepts that knowing where to start can be overwhelming. What if there was a simpler way, a path to understanding that didn't require memorizing an entire universe? Imagine learning complex ideas in bite-sized pieces. KCD, digestible chunks of knowledge delivered straight to your inbox every day. No pressure, no overwhelm, just a steady stream of insights designed to demystify Hinduism. Now, picture this, a daily dose of clarity that cuts through confusion, revealing the beauty and logic of ancient wisdom. By the end of this course, you won't just feel more informed, you'll feel empowered, equipped with a solid understanding of key concepts like Dharma, Karma, Samsara, Moksha, and more. But wait, there's more. This isn't just about gaining knowledge, it's about applying it. You'll find actionable advice on how to incorporate these teachings into your life, turning abstract ideas into practical wisdom, ready to embark on this transformative journey. It's time to unravel the complexities of Hinduism, one simple email at a time. Subscribe now and let the ancient wisdom unfold before your eyes. Don't wait. Start your journey towards enlightenment today. Sometimes you are assigned to watch the temple at night. You sit beneath the carved serpent columns. The torches flicker low. The moon glows faintly behind drifting clouds. You do not speak. You do not sleep. You listen. You hear the rustling of palm leaves, cry of a night bird, the distant bark of a jungle dog. The stars are clear. The priests say they speak messages to those who know the sky, but to you, they are only small, quiet lights. You look for signs, a shooting star, a breeze from the east, a sudden silence, but mostly nothing happens, and that is the point. You are not guarding against attack. You are guarding the stillness, the sacred calm. You do not move. Hours pass. Eventually, the eastern horizon begins to lighten. A bird calls once, then twice. You stand, brush dust from your knees, and return to your quarters. You have watched. The gods were not disturbed. That is enough. Here's another story. You're alone on a watchtower in the hot, dry season. The parched earth cracks around you. The wind whispers through the dry palms. You think of water, of rain. Suddenly, far off, a clap of thunder. Lightning splits the sky. Not here, you think, and the next bolt strikes closer. Come on, you think. Further still, you strain to listen. In the distance, drumming. Not here, you think, and the drums roll closer, closer. Now you are afraid. You run, and then you stop. The drums surround you. They are inside you. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The first fat drops fall. The drumming becomes a roar. Sheets of water pour from the sky. You stand beneath the deluge. It is cold. So very cold. The sun is gone, and the clouds have taken all the heat. You shiver, pull your thin shawl tighter. Where is the shelter? Where is the shade? Then you see it. Ahead, a banyan tree spreads its wide branches. You run. The torrent follows. Beneath the tree, you are safe. The drumming subsides. Only the soft patter of rain remains. You look up. The clouds have parted. A shaft of sunlight touches your face. You close your eyes. You are warm. You open them again. The sun is back. A rainbow shines over the distant hills. You smile. The rain has come. This, too, will pass. You remember the old man who sat by the roadside watching the world go by? Do you remember him? He is here again. Now he sits in the shade of a tree. Sunlight filters through the leaves. His wrinkled face is serene. Birds chirp nearby. A gentle breeze ruffles his white beard. He smiles. Life is good, he thinks. Life is very good. The old man is you. Yes, you. You have returned home after a long journey. You are ready to settle down. Your mind is at peace. You feel the warmth of family, the comfort of familiarity. But there's a question that lingers. Why do you keep reliving this life? Birth, growth, love, loss, and then rebirth into another life like this? Why not break free from this endless cycle? The answer lies within you, or perhaps it has always been you. Remember the seeker who meditated under the Bodhi tree until enlightenment dawned. Remember the sage who deciphered the secrets of existence in deep solitude. Recognize the divinity that resides in you, waiting to be awakened. Yes, you have the power to end the cycle of birth and death. You hold the key to eternal peace. All you need to do is look within. You already know the way. It's time to remember. Are you ready to embark on this introspective journey? Are you prepared to confront the darkness within and emerge into the light of self-realization? If so, take the first step. Close your eyes, dive deep, and discover the truth that awaits you. Are you brave enough to face the shadows and find the light? Okay, take the plunge. Dive into the depths of your soul and uncover the mysteries that lie there. The end of days is coming for the city of the ancients. Even the mighty pyramids that pierce the sky will eventually crumble. This may take thousands of years, but Mother Nature always gets her due. Okay, in the meantime, there will be many visitors from beyond the borders to marvel at the majesty of these ancient structures. They will come from all over to see these wonders, to touch the rough stonework, to feel the energy of the place. And some say, if you listen closely, you can hear the whispers of those who walked here before you. Some say if you climb to the top of the largest pyramid, you can feel the power coursing through your veins. And some say if you stand at the base of the pyramids when the sun rises or sets, you'll witness a mystical glow that turns the stones to gold. And then there are the stories of the hidden chambers and secret passages, of treasures buried beneath the pyramids and artifacts left by the builders. What really happened to them? Where did they go? And what secrets do they hold? This is the story of the keeper of the pyramids. One day, the priests will stop chanting. The incense will no longer burn. The steps will crack. Vines will crawl between the stones. The plaza will fill with soil and leaves. The gods will not speak. The nobles will vanish. The calendar will fall silent, and no one will remember your name. But the temple will still stand. It's covered in moss, buried in green. The sun will rise behind it, just as it always has. Birds will nest in the cracks. Raindrops will echo through the empty halls. Perhaps, far away, a traveler will arrive. They will see the pyramid. They will wonder who built it, who cleaned it, who served in silence, and they will never know. But the stones will remember. A long time ago, the great city thrived. It was home to many cultures and many gods. The people came here from all over the world to live in peace and harmony, or so they thought. In reality, it was a melting pot of different beliefs and ways of life. There were merchants selling exotic goods and scholars eager to learn about other cultures. There were artisans creating beautiful works of art and priests performing rituals to appease the gods. But beneath the surface, there was tension. There were conflicts between the different groups, and there were those who sought to exploit others for their own gain. The people were divided, but they all shared one thing in common: the belief in the power of the pyramids. They were seen as a symbol of unity and strength, a reminder that they could accomplish anything if they put their minds to it. But the people were wrong. No matter how tall or grand their pyramids were, there would come a time when they, too, would crumble to dust. There were signs everywhere, subtle hints that the end was near. The animals were behaving strangely. The plants were withering away, and the very stones of the pyramids seemed to be groaning in pain. The elders gathered in the temple and consulted the oracles, trying to decipher the will of the gods. But the answers they received were vague and cryptic. Some said the world was ending. Others said it was just another cycle, a time for renewal and rebirth. But the people didn't want to hear that. They wanted to know for sure, to have faith in something bigger than themselves. So they decided to make one last stand, one final effort to save their world. They called upon the keeper of the pyramids, a mysterious figure who was said to possess forbidden knowledge and powers. The keeper was said to be able to control the very fabric of reality, to bend the laws of nature to his will. He was revered and feared by the people, and only the most desperate of cases, they would seek him out for help. The priests prepared a grand ceremony at the base of the largest pyramid. They sacrificed animals, they sang and they danced, and they made offerings to the gods. And then they called out to the keeper, begging him to save their world from destruction. The crowd waited in suspense, hoping for a miracle, but there was no response. The keeper did not appear. The ceremony ended in failure, and the people were left to face their fate. They watched in horror as the elements unleashed their fury upon the city. Earthquakes shook the foundations of the pyramids. Volcanoes erupted, covering the landscape in ash. Floods swept through the streets, carrying away everything in their path, and fires raged, consuming everything in sight. The people huddled together, trying to find shelter from the storm, but there was nowhere to hide. The city was being destroyed, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. As the city burned, a small group of survivors fled into the mountains. They left behind the ruins of the city and the crumbling pyramids, seeking refuge in the wilderness. They were led by a young woman named Ayana, who had a strange connection to the pyramids. She had a strange connection to the pyramids. She could feel their pain, their anger, and their sadness. She knew that the keeper of the pyramids was the only one who could help them, but he had abandoned them. Or had he? Ayana refused to give up hope. As she searched for the keeper, following his teachings and trying to understand his ways, she learned about the hidden chambers and secret passages, the treasures buried beneath the pyramids, and the artifacts left by the builders. She uncovered ancient texts that spoke of the keeper's powers and his wisdom, and she realized that he wasn't just a mythical figure, he was real, and he had a plan. Ayana returned to the ruins of the city with a small group of followers. She told them what she had learned about the keeper and his plan, and they agreed to help her carry it out. They started by clearing away the debris and repairing the damage, brick by brick, stone by stone. They rebuilt the temples and the palaces. They restored the works of art and the monuments to the gods. And they planted gardens and farms to provide food for the people. Slowly but surely, the city was restored to its former glory. The people returned, drawn by the promise of a better future. They settled down and started new lives, raising families and building communities. And all the while, the pyramids stood watch over them, silent and stoic. Years turned into decades and centuries passed, and the people forgot about the Great Flood. They forgot about the keeper of the pyramids and his warnings. They became complacent and arrogant, thinking that they had conquered nature and could live however they wanted. But they were wrong. The pyramids were still there, watching them, waiting for their moment. And one day, the earth trembled again. The mountains shook, and the rivers changed their course. The people panicked, wondering if the great flood was returning. But Ayanna and her followers knew what was happening. The keeper of the pyramids was here. He appeared before them, not as a god, but as a man, wise and powerful, yet humble and compassionate. He explained that he had been watching over them, guiding them, testing them. He said that they had proven themselves worthy, and that he was ready to share his knowledge with them. He taught them how to harness the power of the earth, how to control the weather, how to heal the sick, and how to protect themselves from harm. He showed them the hidden chambers and secret passages, the treasures buried beneath the pyramids, and the artifacts left by the builders. And they understood that he wasn't just a teacher, he was the keeper of the pyramids, the guardian of their world. The people followed the keeper's teachings, and they prospered. They lived in harmony with nature, using its resources wisely and respecting its balance. They honored the gods and the ancestors, and they never forgot the great flood. They built new homes and raised new families, and they passed on the teachings of the keeper to their children and grandchildren. And so the cycle began anew, and the pyramids stood watch over them, silent and stoic, till one day the earth trembled again,